top 16 at the largest Genesys event in Europe with, of course, Red Dragon ARCHFIEND.
Aye. Subscribe.
It's been like a solid 8 months since we last looked at Genesys format on the channel, but I seen that there was a main event being held at Euros with some decent prizing on the line, so I decided to whip up a Genesys Red Dragon ARCHFIEND build with the new support to see what we could do in the format, and we ended up getting top 16, which is pretty good. Before the points adjustment, you were pretty much able to just port in an advanced format RDA build and play that in Genesys, but now you kind of have to get creative with your deck building if you want to maintain a solid number of points for non-engine, and that's what we did. So while there is a full Euros vlog in the works going over the entire weekend, our feature match and things like that, I figured we should also quickly push out our top 16 deck profile for those who just want the lists, and I'll show you some of the combos we were doing here as well. So let's jump into the list. For our main deck starters here, we are on 3 copies of Power Vice Dragon. This got updated to be 6 points apiece, so that's 18 points for the playset. I was trying just to save 6 points for non-engine, but Power Vice Dragon is just so good, bro. You always want to see this in your hand. Maxing out on this is probably the best thing you can do. So we play the 3 Power Vice, and then we play the 3 Crimson Gaia, which basically just gets the Power Vice. From there, we're on our 3 copies of Soul Resonator and 3 copies of Boner. Those are your 12 basic 1-card combo starters, but I refuse to play any deck with less than 15 starters. We needed to find 3 more here. I tried some of the nicher options like the ARCHFIEND Quick Play spell, the Armed Catapult Turtle, which tributes itself to summon a level 5 dragon from the deck. None of those were really as flexible as I wanted them to be, so I ended up just settling for 2 copies of Resonator Call. Stone Sweeper got pointed, so you just play Resonator Call instead. It does the exact same thing. I did, however, not want to play 3 Resonator Call because it's just too redundant. You want a good mix of tuner starters and non-tuner starters or extenders. So the 15th card I played was 1 copy of Void Apocalypse. I'm not saying this card is good, bro. This card is ass. It loses to Ghost Ogre. If you send Bone, you lose to DD Crow, all at the cost of a card in your hand. So this was sided out every time going second, but it's the only kind of starter that did what I wanted it to do and offered that flexibility of, you know, getting to a tuner or a non-tuner. So this ended up being our 15 1-card starters in the main deck here. 18 points spent so far. Now we move on to the engine requirements, and this is where things get interesting. Pretty much every Red Dragon ARCHFIEND Genesys build I've seen has just been maxed out on bricks, and I think that's just a terrible way to play the deck. I wanted to actually optimize the deck a bit and find the sweet spot between points cost, end board ceiling, and bricks in the main deck. So I labbed out some combo lanes and focused on the less pointed end boards, which led me to playing 1 copy of Crimson Resonator. He makes your lines to Red Supernova Dragon and Red Hypernova Dragon super simple without clogging the deck with bricks, so that's what I went with, on top of the usual Vision Resonator, Darkness Resonator, Synchron Resonator, Crimson Call, and King's Resonance. Now, I played 1 more brick, and that was the Fiend Peace Golem. In Advanced, the reason you play Golem is to make your 2-card hands beat Nibiru, and it also lets you play through Impulse or Spark on Boner, and things like that. None of that really applies to Genesys format. The reason I decided on Fiend Peace Golem is because specifically Ghost Ogre is a popular hand trap in the format, and so if you start with Resonator Call or Soul Resonator, if you get hit on your Bone Archfiend effect by a Ghost Ogre or like a Crackle Blitzcleek, your turn just ends there if you don't play the Fiend Peace Golem. I thought that would be a very common thing to happen, but apparently it wasn't because it never happened once, so I didn't need this. This should have been the 2nd Vision Resonator, but I guess at least I was covered for that situation that I mentioned, and that is 7 bricks in total in the deck. No, you know, Chain Resonator, no Flame Crime, no Red Rain, nothing like that. Just 7 simple little bricks for the engine, and the rest of the deck is non-engine. So first up here, I have 3 copies of Synchro Overtake, as well as 1 Cool Tune Mix and 1 Cool Tune Rico. The Cool Tune main deck monsters here cost 5 points each, Overtake is free, and then the extra deck options are also free. So this is just a 10-point package, which is good going first because you can Synchro Overtake and set up a Remix, or you can set up a Hypernova, with the help of the Cool Tune cards here, but it's also good going second because you're able to, go into an RS, which is a negate in the main phase, while threatening to pop a monster and a back row as well. So Overtake is a solid board breaker. It's also a solid extender if your Power Vice gets negated for whatever reason. Overtake can summon out the 3 and then you can still go into the Crimson King. Like I said, it makes your Hypernova lines much easier. But also if you play Red Nova in the extra deck, which I am, you can summon Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard as well, which makes your other copies of Overtake in the deck that much better. So yeah, this was a very strong package in the deck. On top of that, we also have 3 copies of DD Crow. This is 1 point each, and 1 copy of Skullmeister for our graveyard hate. Skullmeister is the better card in the deck. It is a level 4 non-tuner that you can just normal summon, and that pairs with something like Crimson Resonator for you to go full combo. But Skullmeister is also searchable in the deck. If you open all engine, you can just search this with Soul Resonator or Crimson Call, which is really nice. The reason I'm playing 3 DD Crow instead of more Skullmeisters is because Crow is unfortunately just a better card in some matchups. If your opponent is trying to hit you with a Artifact Magellan lock, DD Crow stops that while the Skullmeister doesn't. And against like Blitzclick, DD Crow is just better at getting things like Breakaway out of the graveyard, while Skullmeister only stops them for the 1 turn. I didn't also want to play too many graveyard-related hand traps because, in some matchups, they're just dead. So that was the ratio I went with. We also then spent 8 points on 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This card is just really good in the format because it has good applications against most decks, right? You can hit the Doom Z guys, you can hit the Blitzclick field spell, you can hit some Red Dragon Archfiend plays like Bone Archfiend, hopefully you don't have the Fiend Piece Golem, the Fairy Tale Equip spell, there's just so much you can do with Ghost Ogre. It's really good in this format, and it's only 4 points, so 8 points on the Ghost Ogre there. You can also normal summon this next to a Power Vice Dragon to make the Crimson King if needed. I played 2 copies of Perulia. This was initially Fuelos, but Perulia hits a lot more, including the Blitzclick deck, which is like the best deck. These cost 9 points each. I was initially on 3 Perulia, but I decided to cut down to 2 so that I could also play 1 copy of Nibiru, so that I had some kind of payoff on the Perulia draws. I could draw into a card that can just, wipe the board if there was a combo deck that was just playing into it. Final non-engine in the deck, we have 2 copies of Chalice. These are 1 point each, but it's Forbidden Chalice. It's good 1-for-1 going second. It's good going first. You can just set it. It's like imperm. Very good card for 1 point. And then rounding out the list, we have 2 copies of Swords of Concealing Light. This card is actually broken, man. This won so many games. And our deck is really good going first, so we're able to play a couple of going second cards in the deck. I will say if we did have the time to figure out the format, these would have been my Body as a Shield in the main deck, because that card is just so good against Blitzclick, man, and I couldn't find any. I mentioned on the train down to Euros if anyone in the group had any, but none of them did, and we weren't going to be at the venue before decklist submission. So yeah, unfortunate. And half my matchups were Blitzclick, man. It would have came up so much and potentially pushed us into the first place spot. Now for the extra deck, we have 2 copies of Red Rising Dragon. Of course, some of our combos go through both Red Risings in the 1 turn. We have 1 copy of Quibao. Let's just spot removal. We got the Crimson King, Scarlight, Scarred, double Red Dragon Archfiend. We got the QCR and the Ulti here. Abyss and Crimson King are our only pointed cards in the extra deck here. Abyss is 20, Crimson King is 10, because we're focusing on summoning some of our big guys, like Red Supernova Dragon. We got the Overframe Shatter of Robertson, let's go. The Hypernova Dragon, and then I am playing the Red Nova Dragon. Like I said before, you can reveal this off of the Synchro Overtake and summon back Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard, but you can also just summon it back with a Hypernova for the extra indestructible body to go for game. Finally, we're on a copy of Disturbim, and then the Cool Turn Remix and the RS as well. Every single card here came up and was summoned throughout the tournament. I had a game against Radiant Typhoon where I literally just sat on this for a solid like 7 or 8 turns, hoping that they can't out it, which they couldn't. Then I was able to banish all of their cards on my turn and punch for game with the Red Nova Dragon. So yeah, that was really fun. There's so much aura you get out of summoning these big indestructible guys. So yeah, dude, definitely a lot of fun. And then for the side deck, you'll see a funny little tech here. We have 3 copies of Artifact Lancia in the side. These are 1 point each, but they're basically blowout cards against things like Crystron, Monarch, Train FTK, Dark Lords. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of those matchups throughout the entire tournament, so I did not end up siding in Lancia at all. We played 3 copies of Santa Claus, which of course is just a very good generic going second option, especially against towers. 3 copies of Twin Twisters for back row removal. You can pitch things like Bone Archfiend or Vision Resonator, and it ends up just being so free. We needed some going first cards to side in over the Swords of Conceal and Light and Perulias, so I ended up just chucking in some Torrential Tributes. I wasn't sure what to play here. The theory with Torrential is that if we're playing like Supernova or Hypernova, we can just remove these through their own effects, and then Torrential acts as like a backup interruption. Or worst case scenario, we can fire off the Torrential and protect our own board with the Soul Resonator. Yeah, unfortunately, this card didn't really do much the entire weekend. I was still siding it in against Blitzkrieg because if I set a bunch of traps, they can't pop them all with Grain, right? So I would hopefully get some use out of Torrential that way. Unfortunately, just didn't really happen, never really came up. No good moments with the Torrential Tribute, unfortunately. We also played the 1 copy of Red Zone to give us stronger half boards into things like Charmies. Perulia and Fuelos do still just unfortunately destroy this deck, so Red Zone was really good there. We have the 3rd copy of Swords of Conceal and Light. You need some kind of board wipe in the deck, whether it be Dark Hole, Kaiju Slumber, Concealing Light, or Eclipse. It just helps you beat Melfi on the spot if you do play against it. I did not play against it, but Swords of Concealing Light won so many games. And then 1 copy of Waking the Dragon. This was the 1 tech I could find in my bulk box for Blitzkrieg. Unfortunately, I could only find the 1 copy, but the theory is that if they pop this with Grain or Whisker, you summon out a big indestructible guy. Unfortunately, you cannot summon Red Supernova or Hypernova because that's illegal, but you would summon out, depending on the situation, maybe Red Nova Dragon, which can't be destroyed by card effects, or, you know, like Abyss or RS if you need a negate or something. Our win condition against Blitzkrieg is just summoning out some big indestructible guys and hoping they can't get over it. They have ways to beat that by searching kaijus with Alternator or setting up, you know, double Alternator to reduce the attack and then punching over tokens and things like that. But I did win a bunch of Blitzkrieg matches through them just not being able to out an indestructible 6,000 attack Red Dragon Archfiend. So it is definitely a bit of a weird matchup, and unfortunately 50% of my matchups were Blitzkrieg and all of my losses were Blitzkrieg. So if we were better equipped for that matchup with things like my Body as a Shield and Pearly, I think it's Pretty Memory that gives you indestructible, then we definitely would have had a much better time. But yeah, that was the 100-point Genesys list. I'll now show you some of the 1-card combos that we were doing because I had to figure them out specifically for this format. Alright, I don't want this video to be too long or super in-depth or anything. There are just basically 3 1-card combos in the deck, 1 for Vice, 1 for Soul, and 1 for Bone. I'll show you all of those, and then I'll give you a quick example of going into the Hypernova, or, you know, the remix with the Synchro Overtake here as well. So let's start off with the Power Vice combo. This gets you to the full board with the Soul Protection as well. Of course, we are going to start with the effect in hand to special summon and effect a Search or Resonator. We add the Darkness. We go Darkness effect to special by revealing a Red Dragon Archfiend, and then effect on summon for an additional normal before synchroing into the Crimson King. We go effect, which fetches our Crimson Call. We can fire off the Crimson Call and search for our boy, the Crimson Resonator. We don't just immediately lose to a DD Crow in this combo line, so that's why I thought it was probably worth going for. We can use our additional normal on the Crimson and then go Crimson effect to bring out a Soul and a Synchron. Soul's effect will trigger on summon to grab a Boner. We're basically just playing as if Nibiru doesn't exist because it costs a lot and is bad against Blitzkrieg, so you kind of just expect not to see it in the format. However, if you do get Nibiru, there's plenty of opportunity for your opponent to use it wrong. For example, if we get Nibiru here, we still have a normal summon available to us and basically all effects of Bone, so we would still actually be able to put up a board through Nibiru if we were to get Nibiru here, for instance. Our next action, however, is to just normal summon the Bone Archfiend. So if we get Nibiru here, that basically kooks us, but, you know, we're just hoping our opponent misplays. We go Bone effect, target himself, dump a Vision to increase the level to 5. Vision effect, we'll then grab our Crimson Gaia. We Synchron with the Boner into Red Rising. Chain 1 Red Rising is going to summon back the Synchron. Chain 2 Synchron is going to add back the Vision to hand. We can then Synchro our 3, our 2, and our 1 with our Red Rising to bring out the big boy, Red Supernova Dragon. Synchron will trigger once again, just adding back any Resonator to hand, which is going to be our fodder for the effect of Bone Engrave. From here, we will special summon our Vision Resonator and then use the effect of Boner Engrave, pitching the Crimson Res to summon itself back. We can Synchro with the Vision into Red Rising number 2. Effect is going to summon back any level 3 Resonator. and then we can synchro with the Red Rising into our Abyss. Fire off the Crimson Gaia and its effect, which gets us to the King's Resonance, and that is our Power Vice end board. If we had Overtake in hand, swap out the Red Supernova for a Hypernova, and it's the same board. So here basically we have, of course, the Trap, the Soul Protection Engrave because Crimson King's on the field, we have the Abyss Omni Negate, and then the Red Supernova Banish Everything, which we can utilize twice if we really need to with the King's Resonance. If we get Kaiju'd or Lava Golemed, King's Resonance is still able to bring back one of our interruptions. So all round, it is a pretty resilient board. All right, moving on to the Soul Resonator combo. This one actually involves a little bit of decision making because there's a safe play and there's a high ceiling, high risk play, which typically you don't want to go for unless you have other cards in your hand like Resonator Call that can extend past a certain point. So I'm going to start here by showing you the high risk, high reward play, and that's normal summon Soul. Soul effect grabs us the Boner, and then we go Boner effect, pitch a card to special summon. We go Boner effect, target Soul, send Crimson to grave, and reduce Soul's level to 2. The reason this is a high risk play is because this line just immediately dies to DD Crow on Crimson Resonator. So it's either a gamble or you have means to extend past the Red Rising if you do actually get DD Crow. So here we synchro into Red Rising, we go Red Rising effect, summoning back the Crimson, and then we go Crimson effect. Here we would summon out the Darkness and the Vision Resonator. Darkness effect on summon is going to give us an additional normal summon for Resonators, and then we'll go Darkness effect, target the Vision to make it level 1. That's going to allow us to use a 3, a 2, and a 1 alongside the 6 to bring out our Red Supernova Dragon, and that is also going to trigger our Vision Resonator. We get to our Crimson Gaia here, fire off the Crimson Gaia, Gaia effect, we'll add the Power Vice Dragon, we then go effective Power Vice to special summon, and Vice effect to search for the Synchron. We can then special the Synchron and synchro with the Vice into Red Rising number 2, Chainlink 1, is going to summon back Synchron, Chainlink 2 Synchron, is going to add back the Vision to hand. Here we would then special summon the Vision and synchro with the Red Rising into our Crimson King. Crimson King effect gets us to our King's Resonance trap card, and then we can synchro the Synchron with the Crimson King into our Abyss to end up on the exact same board. We're only missing Crimson King and therefore the destruction protection from our end field. Of course, Synchron will add back the Vision there as well. So that's kind of like the risky play you can make with Soul. Let's move on to the actual safer combo, which ends on a lower ceiling board, but maybe you want to do it if you have something like Synchro Overtake in your hand. All right, here's an alternative line you can do with the Soul, which is a little bit safer and doesn't immediately lose to DD Crow. You can normal summon Soul, go Soul effect to grab the Boner. Before you lock yourself to Dark Dragon Synchros, we'll just fire off the Overtake here, revealing RS to special the Rico, and then Rico effect. We'll add our Mix. We'll synchro the Mix with the Rico into our Remix, and then proceed with our turn. So we would go Bone effect, pitch the Perulia to special summon, and then Bone effect target Soul, sending Vision to grave to increase the level of Soul. Vision effect, we'll grab our Crimson Gaia, and we can then synchro Soul with Bone into the Crimson King. We go Crimson King effect to get to the Power Vice Dragon. Effect of Power Vice to special because we only control Dark Synchros. Vice effect to search for the Synchron Resonator. If we had an additional engine piece here, we would be able to make an Abyss alongside the King in the Remix. But because we are just using the one card Soul combo alongside the Overtake, here we would just have to special the Synchron and synchro immediately with the Crimson King into the Abyss, which at least gets us follow-up back in the hand. And of course, the Crimson Gaia gets us to the King's Resonance trap card. And that would be the end board for kind of like the safer line for Soul Resonator. All right, the final combo I'm going to show you here is the Bone Archfiend combo alongside the option of summoning a Hypernova with the use of something like Synchro Overtake. So here we are going to normal summon Bone and activate its effect, targeting himself. We're going to dump a Vision to grave to increase the level to 5. Vision effect adds the Crimson Gaia. We'll then fire off the Crimson Gaia and its effect to get to the Darkness Resonator. We'll then activate the effect of Darkness in hand to special summon itself by revealing RDA. Effect on summon will give us an additional normal, and we can then synchro with the level 5 Bone into our Crimson King. We'll go effect. That's going to get us to our Crimson Call, which will fire off to get to our Crimson Resonator, where we can then just use our additional normal on the Crimson and fire off the Crimson effect, summoning out Soul Resonator and a Synchron as well. We'll go Soul effect on summon, and because we've already gone through all of our Resonators and we we already started with the Bone Archfiend, we're going to be able to search for the Skullmeister just for free on top of our board here. Unfortunately, with the Bone Archfiend combo, you're not actually able to end on the trap card, so Skullmeister is kind of like our commiserations for not having the trap, unless we hard draw it. But yeah, from here, we'll synchro the Synchron with the Crimson King into our Abyss, where Synchron will trigger, adding back the Vision Resonator. We'll then activate the effect of Bone, pitching a card from field or hand. In this example, we're just going to get rid of the Gaia. There's a bunch of different things we can get rid of. Special summon the Bone here, and then synchro with the Crimson into our Red Rising Dragon. Now, typically here, we would go Red Rising, summoning back the Synchron, so that we then have a 3, a 1, and a 2 to make the Red Supernova Dragon. But because in this situation, we're going to be making a Hypernova with the Synchro Overtake, we're actually going to summon back the Darkness Resonator. From there, we'll then fire off the Synchro Overtake. Here we have to specifically reveal Remix because we need the Remix on field and the Rico in hand to let the maths work with the numbers. That means we are going to summon the Mix effect, gets the Rico to hand, and then we can activate the effect of Darkness targeting all 3 tuners on the field to make them level 1. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, plus the 4, 5, 6 on the Rico in hand, alongside the Red Rising. Quadruple tuning! Red Hypernova Dragon, baby. Then, of course, we have the Skullmeister here as well, and we can pitch the Vision for our Bone Archfiend on the next turn to get back to the Crimson Gaia for follow-up. But yeah, ideally you want one of the trap cards to back up the board here, so hopefully you hard drew one of them. It's not really ideal starting with Bone Archfiend, but you need to have a combo for when it happens, bro. But yeah, that has been our top 16 Genesys Red Dragon Archfiend build. Only a couple of days thought put into it, so I wouldn't say it's like 100% optimal. Of course, we didn't have all of the text that we would have liked to have had, and we still managed to get top 16 anyway, and got ourselves some nice prizing. So yeah, stay tuned for the full vlog coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.